Hockenheim, Spa, Mugello, places on the map. But in fact they stand for much more than that, just as nobody really associates Rheingold with metal from a river. Mugello. The show has moved on. Perhaps the season is over, or hasn't started yet. So, what remains of a racetrack when you take away those booming, beefy cars? Just an ordinary stretch of tarmac? No, racetracks are something legendary. A mystique composed of triumphs and defeats. And time, which has left many marks, even if they're not evident at first sight. The story of the Hockenheim Ring, now a Grand Prix racetrack, began in 1932. The course was constructed in just 3 months on forest tracks with no proper foundation. Even so, the very first race attracted 45,000 spectators. The course was shortened several times over the years. The original layout was simply too strenuous for the drivers and conflicted with the safety standards that were becoming more stringent all the time.
So they created a unique racetrack in this woodland south of Schwetzingen. It had an amazingly long straight and then a really sharp bend to the east, leading back to the motordrome. There came a time when it was just too much for the long-distance racers and Formula One. It was also hard to optimize the cars. You needed high speed on the one hand, but also maximum downforce to get enough grip on the bends.
As a result, Hockenheim was shortened from its original 12 kilometers to its present 4,574 meters. Now the Hockenheim Ring is a modern racetrack with space for 120,000 spectators. And there's no risk of boredom. With a lap record of under 1 minute 14 seconds and an average speed of over 220 kilometers an hour, the people on the grandstands get almost non-stop action. When this track was opened in 1927 with a length of 28 kilometers, it quickly provided a much-needed boost to the Eifel region. Then a bit of an economic backwater. It also became a legend in its own right. For decades, the North Loop, 22.8 kilometers long, enjoyed the dubious honor of being the most dangerous Grand Prix track in the world.
The North Loop of the Nürburgring is still known to many people as Green Hell. Why? Well, during a single race you can experience almost any weather conditions: rain, snow, wind and sun. And then the hedges once ran very close to the track. They used to say if you lose control you disappear through the hedge and they may never find you. There was also no way back. It was all very, very dangerous. It really sorted out the professionals from the amateurs.
After an increasing number of protests and even boycotts by drivers, they built a modern track, only 4.5 kilometers long. It was later modified and is now a good 10% longer. It's used for Formula One and the DTM races. But the legendary North Loop still exists, so that variants up to almost 26 kilometers can be used for long-distance races. In the evenings and on Sundays, anyone can pay a fee and drive a few laps on the infamous North Loop in a normal car. Italy is blessed with numerous monuments that are now part of the world cultural heritage, such as the towers built by patrician families in Tuscany. But Italy is also famous for motor racing.
Of course, in the early days, motor racing was only for the wealthy. And so, in most countries, the racetracks were laid out where the rich people had their estates. The Circuito di Monza, in Italy, for example. Or San Marino, which for a long time was the second Italian Formula One track. But there were also racetracks that were originally set up mainly for motorbikes. One of them is Mugello in Tuscany, a dream setting in the hills to the north of Florence.
Races have been held since 1914 on the Autodromo Internazionale del Mugello. The course of 66 kilometers was originally purely on public roads. Its heyday was the decade after the First World War, when legendary names such as Campari, Ferrari and Materassi chalked up their victories. But Mugello's star began to set with the first Mille Miglia in 1929. In those days it was not a showcase for old-timers but a top-class racing rally. It was not until the 1960s that Mugello staged a comeback. Now it's a modern racetrack just over 5 kilometers long with challenging bends and inclines, so it's also very popular as a test track. The racetrack at Spa-Francorchamps has plenty of bends and a height difference of 100 meters, so it's nicknamed the Ardennes Switchback. Opened in 1921, nearly 15 kilometers mainly on public roads, Spa quickly gained a reputation as a dangerous course. Signposts, trees and buildings beside the road required maximum concentration on the part of drivers. The unpredictable weather in the Ardennes hills could also mean that you started off in sunshine and ran into a rainstorm a few kilometers on.
The insidious thing about Spa is that the course is very fast indeed. It's also the only one in the world where the start and finish are on a bend. That means the starter on his rostrum can't see the tail end of the field when he gives the signal to go. That's particularly dangerous for those at the rear.
Following major renovations in the 1980s, Spa is now a regular fixture in the Grand Prix calendar. In 2001, the parts of the course that were still public roads were closed to normal traffic. Since then, Spa-Francorchamps has been a permanent racetrack with rather over 7 kilometers. Racetracks are more than the sum of their parts. It makes no difference whether they're vibrating to the roar of the engines and all the life surrounding an event, or are lonely and peaceful after the end of the season. A racetrack is a magical spot.